Have you ever wondered what's inside the handle of your Mora Companion? Well, I've wondered, and I have heard for so long that, maybe this rat tail only goes to about there or there. No one really knows. How are you going to find out? Well, thanks to a little incident back in 2001, 9/11, you can't just carry this into the doctor's office and say, hey, would you mind x-raying this so I can see where that handle goes? That's not allowed. In other words, don't even ask. In other words, you might wind up in jail. So what's a guy to do? Since these aren't that expensive, I thought, why not sacrifice one of these knives, expose the Tang, and make a video of it and make a project out of it. You want to see how I did it? Stick around. If not, now's a good time to leave. I gave a lot of thought as to how I was going to do this, and the plan that I came up with was actually pretty smart, if I do say so myself. Since I really had no idea where the Tang stopped, I thought, what's the best way to do this? A hacksaw. So here's the handle. I had to make multiple attempts at cutting down into the handle before I did not hit Tang. So here's the end result. One half of it is going to show the cavity where the Tang was in it. And it gets a little messy back here, but the Tang went all the way to right there. And of course, this piece is going to be flat. So that's pretty darn far when you consider how thin that blade is and just how far that Tang goes into that handle. So that would explain why you really can baton on these things without any fear of that knife coming apart. There's really no place for it to go. What I found interesting was this cross section, and you can see how thick the rubber is, and then into the hard plastic. And it's a rubbery plastic. It's not brittle by any stretch of the imagination. So, I mean, it is securely in there. That is not going anywhere. I have a spare heavy duty version, but after seeing this, I don't know that I need to cut apart a heavy duty version, the robust version or whatever you want to call it, to see just how far the Tang goes that one, because all of these are very similarly made. So you can see where the cut is right at the beginning of the O of Mora. And that gives you an idea of how deep it is. I don't know that the Tang on the Robust is going to go that much further. I don't think so. So part 2. Hey, Tom, what do you do with said spare blade now that you have it? Don't throw it away. That's a perfectly good blade. The motivation behind this whole project was the fact that I enjoy watching Bertram Craft and Outdoors, or Bushcraft and Outdoors, or Bushcraft and Crafts, or I don't know. Bertram, that's all you need to know. He's in Sweden. He makes his own knives. He makes his own axe. He does amazing videos, and they're just, what is that, ASMR or something like that? You just watch and see what this guy does. He's really quite fascinating. But he made his own puko knife. Well, I don't have a forge, and I'm not going to be making a puko knife. I could do a puko knife out of stock removal, which is the type of knife making I do. But you know, that's, to me, really not authentic. I want an authentic puko knife. But the next best thing is to just use the blade from a Mora that you just destroyed and put it into the handle of a Martini knife, not Martini, Martini. Not to bash Martini. I don't know exactly where they're made. When I made the video about where is your castrum knife made, I got some comments as to Martini used to be made in Sweden and it's no longer. I forget where. Don't quote me. You can't quote me because I don't know. I don't remember. But anyway, I had 2 of them. I had the ultra high carbon and then the regular version. Very disappointed in both of those knives. The tip literally broke off of the regular one. Making a spoon. Wasn't doing anything wacky, just making a spoon. And then the edge of the ultra high carbon just kept chipping and breaking off. Doing the same thing, making spoons out of old oak wood. So rather than just throw the whole knife in the trash and send it off to the landfill, I knocked the handles off. So I have 2 of these handles. This one was from the ultra high carbon, so it had the dark stain on it, but when you carve on it and you take all the stain off, this is what you're left with, a regular curly birch handle. I reamed out the inside of this handle a little bit more with a long screwdriver to drill the hole, got everything out, lined up, made sure that it set right down to the hilt, filled it with epoxy, slid it in there, and let it dry for a week. Then carved on it with my Mora and scraped, didn't do any sanding, and then used walnut oil on it. And that is the end result. So this is kind of my Bertram homage knife. I'm sure it will darken with age like his did. His looks like he's stained it with something. No, it's just absorbed so much stuff. Rather comfortable. I've already used it for a couple of things. I'm looking forward to using it for a lot more. This knife is 3 7/8 inches long, making it legal where I live. But if a cop was to measure from the bottom guard to the point, it can come in at 4 inches. If you measure from the top part of the guard to the point, it's 3 7/8. Perfecto. The other law where I live is it must be concealed. Well, a Mora sheath really hangs down low. I use an old Joker sheath from a knife that I no longer have, and this fits in here perfectly. The belt loop is about mid-knife as opposed to being taller than the knife on the sheath that comes with this knife. So I can put this on my belt and it is more concealed than the plastic Mora sheath that hangs down very low, thereby making it concealed and less out there for some overzealous police officer to come up to you and say, Is that a knife hanging down from your belt? You mind if I take a look at that and break out my little tape measure? I don't want to deal with that. What I could have done was cut slits in that handle and set that knife in a little further, thereby shortening the blade. But I didn't do that. I wasn't thinking ahead. So that's the deal. That's what's inside your Mora Companion. A very, very inexpensive, made in Sweden, durable, highly versatile, usable knife. I mean, what more do you want? This is all you really need. One of these guys, and you're good to go. Thanks for watching. Think about making one of these. It's a fun project.